Flawedcast, episode 267, The Battle in Perry, Ohio. Educate and inform the whole mass of the people. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. Thomas Jefferson.
Flawedcast, get in the arena.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all of our esteemed Flawedcast listeners. I want to welcome and thank everybody back to a brand new, fun-filled, hopefully thought-provoking and action-inducing episode of Flawedcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in last couple weeks. Been flying solo, and just appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the listening and hopefully the response of people sharing. I really appreciate all of that, especially with some of the topics. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Please subscribe, follow, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up button, leave a 5-star review. All of that helps more than you know. You can find us anywhere podcasts are. Just search Flawedcast CLE, Apple, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor.fm. Anywhere podcasts are, just search Flawedcast CLE. We are also on the video platform Rumble. That is also under Flawed Inc. You can find us on the Project Mockingbird social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Getter, Gab, Parler. We are also now on Threads. That is also all under Flawed Inc. You can find in the description a link to pick up a copy of my book, the book that I wrote, Smith's Heart of Man Repair Manual, and our email is flawedinc@gmail.com. Questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and send them right there. But today I want to talk about something that's really just recently been brought to my attention. And oddly enough, the battle is hitting home. The battle for freedom and sovereignty is literally about 10 minutes from where I sit right now. And it's in all of our backyards. I believe most of the people who are listening to this podcast live somewhat close by, or at least they know that I live in Cleveland, Ohio, the Cleveland area, Northeast Ohio, and there's a little hamlet nearby called Perry, Ohio. And right now what's going on in Perry, Ohio is that there is a heated debate, heated discourse, which I believe in and I think is healthy, about creating a AI data center right on Route 20. Used to be called Champions Farm. 215 acres had just been sitting there for a while. And it used to be a nursery. When I was a kid, there was a big store there. I remember going and getting pumpkins there and getting strawberries and some produce and stuff like that with my folks when I was a kid. But it's been sitting vacant, and there's some development and there's some interesting applications of what the potential use of that land is going to be for. And thankfully, there is a fight. People are voicing their concerns, voicing their opinions, and I think this is so necessary. And I'm going to get into all of that. Now, I'm going to play a clip by a gentleman named John Bound. He is a reporter for Alex Jones Network, formerly InfoWars. And this just is a brief breakdown of what data centers are. If you're not familiar with that, if you are not aware of what these are, I believe they're dangerous. I believe they're very hazardous. I believe there's going to be a depletion of natural resources, especially in lieu of the population in these areas. I'm going to play this clip real quick, and I'll be right back.
Data centers are devouring American homes in a brazen land grab fueled by the technocracy's AI boom, and everyday families are paying the ultimate price.
Imagine you work for a $2 billion company and you roll up to work one morning and you find out that your 401k contribution will no longer be matched by the company because they are interested in putting that measly amount for their employees, that little itty bit for a $2 billion company, into AI research, AI processes in the name of efficiency. And then you read what your company's spokespeople say, and they go, this is actually a positive signal in the labor market. This is good. This is an investment back in our people for their long-term future.
Across the United States, utility giants and big tech allies are wielding eminent domain like a club, bulldozing generational properties under the guise of progress and energy needs. Sold as innovation, now revealing itself as a ruthless corporate takeover, where your backyard, your farm, or your childhood home becomes collateral damage for server farms that guzzle power like there's no tomorrow. This assault is hitting hard in states like Georgia, where Georgia Power is targeting families in Coweta County to clear paths for massive transmission lines, supporting a $17 billion data center project in neighboring Fayette County.
Although nobody in this town wants a damn data center, our commissioners still approved it, so therefore Georgia Power is using easement rights to force homeowners, longtime homeowners, old homeowners, into selling their family properties and their family homes so they can be torn down and power lines be extended to support these data centers. Similar
nightmares are unfolding in Pennsylvania, where rural families like Brenda Rizzo's 101-acre farm stare down 240-foot towers for AI data centers. Nationwide, the scale is staggering. Nearly 3,000 new data centers under construction or proposed, piling onto thousands already operating, with rural America bearing the brunt.
Construction is either in final planning or even in progress in a ton of not-so-remote areas. Forget the ones that are already built already. There's thousands of them all over the country. But you have Phoenix, Arizona, Atlanta, Georgia. Actually, that's becoming like one of the biggest major hubs with dozens more planned. Columbus, Ohio, Reno, Nevada, Quincy, Washington, El Paso, Texas, Santa Teresa, New Mexico, Imperial County, California, Beaver Dam, Wisconsin, Kansas City, Missouri, and one of the biggest ones, Salt Lake City. They want to build one there that is twice the size of Manhattan. Now, despite residents vehemently opposing this, like they went to the town hall meeting and they were like, no. Everybody was like, no. Somehow, it was unanimously approved by the Box Elder County Commission.
For hell's sake, grow up.
These hyperscale behemoths demand insane portions of electricity and land. Wake up, America. Your deed means nothing when the New World Order grid demands it. John Bound reporting for the Alex Jones Network.
Okay, so that John Bounds reporting for the Alex Jones Network, formerly InfoWars, and it's a brief description of data centers, the danger, the threats that they are. And I'm just going to tell you guys, this is something that's really been on my heart. A lot of people have concerned. They're starting to catch on to this data center idea. And I'm probably going to be doing next couple episodes about this, but I want to touch base with this because this is tangible. This is something that's literally happening right in our backyard that we can voice our opinions on. That, but more importantly, just as a citizen, we need to begin to identify what these threats are and how to come against them peacefully and constitutionally. So let me share some information. Now this is some information about Ohio. It says Ohio hosts over 200 data centers with nearly 230 operational and under construction or announced statewide. While the exact number dedicated solely to AI isn't officially tracked, tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Meta utilize these hyper-scale facilities across central Ohio to power their artificial intelligence and cloud operations. So statewide, the count, Ohio ranks 5th or 6th in the nation in regards to data centers. We are 5th or 6th in America having the most data centers, which is startling. Roughly 232 are active or planned to be operational by 70 different providers. Central Ohio has a vast majority, over half. They are clustered in Central Ohio, including massive hyperscale campuses built in New Albany, Columbus, and Lancaster. In Northeast Ohio, the Cleveland and Akron regions host roughly 24 facilities, including local hubs like Viking Data Center in East Akron. So I'm going to play a video clip how this is affecting Ohio. This is from a local Columbus affiliate. The first clip, John Bounds, was more of a national, international view. I'm going to break it down a little more closer to home. Here's this clip from a local Columbus news affiliate.
Data centers have been around for decades, but look at this map. They are growing in size and in number. All those blue circles are clusters of data centers. Ohio has more than 200, with Columbus right at the center of this building boom. All of this has some communities preparing for what happens if one wants to come to town. Plain and simple, Plain City is growing. And that's building conversation. Down at the Red Hen Cafe, just ask Ralph Hudson.
It's amazing.
And Kathy Utzi.
Oh, yeah.
Both cherish the small town feel and feel apprehensive about what's grown nearby.
I'm not a fan of the huge data centers that all the publicity is about these days.
It's really coming in strong here.
Neighboring Jerome Township has 2 data center campuses running, but statewide there are more than 200 data centers. More than half just surround Columbus. Does Plain City want a data center?
I don't think we're opposed to them. It has to be right for our community.
Village planner Derek Hutchinson says there's no plans for one in this community yet. But Plain City has proposed more than a dozen new zoning regulations to address common complaints.
So the proposed code is very aggressive. It is more aggressive than anything I've ever seen, even in Ohio.
You can think of data centers like the brains of the internet. They're full of servers serving you when you open a website, stream video, or use a cell phone app. Growing demand from AI and more has them growing in size. This Google data center in New Albany is more than 275,000 square feet.
This is being driven by consumers and businesses. Consumers and businesses will generate twice as much data in the next 5 years as we did in the previous 10.
Dan DiOrio is with the Data Center Coalition representing the industry. He says Ohio offers what it needs: power, network infrastructure, skilled workers, and land. The state also offers tax incentives on top of deals with local governments. Liz Schwab works for Google. How does that balance out with these tax incentives versus how much is dumped back into the local economy?
So even with abatements, we are generally the largest taxpayer in the localities where we operate.
Google says its Ohio data centers powered nearly $22 billion in economic activity just last year. But data centers have faced a growing flow of criticisms, including over land and water use, leading to temporary bans in some Ohio communities. Google's New Albany location uses water for cooling and averages 34 million gallons a month. For comparison, the tallest building in the Columbus skyline, the Rhodes State Office Tower, uses roughly 1 million gallons a month. Google says it replenished more than 60% of the fresh water it consumed in 2024 company-wide. There's also all that power. Google's New Albany site can use 250 megawatts, enough electricity for more than 160,000 homes. At the same time, electricity costs have increased, but data centers push back on blaming them.
It is not as simple as a data center goes up and you see your bill goes up and it's one for one. This is a very complicated grid issue.
AEP Ohio told 6 on Your Side there isn't a simple way to isolate the impact of data centers on your bill.
Ohio in general is a deregulated state, so AEP Ohio owns the wires piece of that, how we deliver that power to you.
The utilities director of economic development, Zach Miller, says a first-of-its-kind data center rate plan protects everyday customers down the power line. Will ratepayers, will families foot the bill for all of this power being run by data centers?
The answer to that is no.
The plan, approved last summer by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, requires minimum power purchases for data centers, long-term contracts, and exit fees if they bail early. Why?
We want to build the infrastructure that the data centers say that they need and that they're going to use.
They're using data centers as a convenient scapegoat.
Ryan Osberger is the president of the Ohio Manufacturers Association, which asked the state Supreme Court to reverse the billing plan, calling it a flagrant and unlawful effort to discriminate against certain customers. The association blames higher power rates on utilities overinflating forecasts for future power demand, an allegation AEP Ohio denies.
They don't get nearly as much profit on the amount of electricity that flows from their wires to customers. They make their real money on what they build.
The data center debate inspired Jessica Baker to act. Do you feel at all like this is a David versus Goliath situation for you?
Well, sure it is. But the problem, there's way more Davids.
She's an organizer with Conserve Ohio. The grassroots group is collecting signatures to potentially let Ohio voters decide the future for data centers this fall. It's proposed a constitutional amendment banning data centers over 25 megawatts.
Okay, Ohio's already got 200, so I think we're done. I think Ohio's had its fair share.
It's all a lot to chew on.
I'm not sure of what benefit it would be.
We'll manage somehow.
As the discussion continues, that's neither plain nor simple to dig into. Politicians are getting involved in this conversation too. There's at least a half dozen bills tied to data centers at the Ohio State House.
Okay, so a lot of information there. I include these clips because I want to establish that there are other sources informing you, or as much as they can, on the same information. I'm going to be approaching it from a biblical point of view. I'm going to be approaching it from a more common sense based view, I believe. But let me share some information. A massive proposed data center campus in Perry, Ohio, on the former Champion Farm property has sparked major debate across Lake County. There's a developer whose name is Providence Group, a California-based developer, proposed a 7-building, multi-million-dollar data center campus. The 215-acre encompassing land in Perry Village, Perry Township, and Perry Joint Economic Development Jurisdiction, JEDD, located near the local schools and the public library. The land purchase agreements have not been finalized, and local leaders have paused the process to weigh community feedback. Residents and citizen groups strongly oppose the project, citing noise pollution, potential strain on water supplies / lake ecosystem, and a lack of alignment with the area's rural residential character. Proponents argue that the development would generate crucial long-term tax revenues for Perry schools and municipal services, offsetting phase out of personal property replacement funding. The developer has presented payment in lieu of taxes, PILOT, agreements to guarantee $500,000 in annual revenue alongside other compensation. Perry Village has repealed previous data center legislation in order to allow for more time to evaluate the project, though the developer could technically still build under current zoning rules via conditional use permits. Painesville Township, the response to the growth data center boom, Painesville Township neighbors, Perry, those that don't know, enacted a temporary moratorium on new data centers permits to study the infrastructure impact. Now, I have some clips from WEWS Channel 5 and then Action 19. They both ran specials. These are little clips. They both approach the same issue from a different point of view. I'm going to share those real quick. So I'm going to put them on, and I'll be right back.
Another battle in Ohio's data center debate.
I never got to say or vote on this. And now who decided for us that we're going to have this data center?
News 5 has been digging into both the hopes and concerns of bringing more data centers to our state.
If we don't build them here, they're going to go somewhere else.
As more people across Ohio say, not so fast.
In Lake County, a developer has big plans for more than 200 acres.
Most of that land is in Perry Village. It's where talks started in 2024, but opposition is now growing and neighbors have been calling News 5.
News 5's Michelle Jarboe was at a packed council meeting last night, and she followed through with the village's mayor today.
I don't like not having a voice.
Gail Wills has spent her whole life here in Perry.
I got an acre and a half of beautiful green land. I like looking at my neighbors.
A quiet village in the shadow of a nuclear power plant.
All the people here are friendly.
But they're not rolling out the welcome mat for big tech.
Do you want to live next to a data center? I could see the most perfect house and I would say, I'm not going to buy it. It's right next to a data center.
Now people who live around here are speaking up.
I want to retire here. You guys took that all away.
Why weren't we told about this? Why wasn't it brought to our attention?
And in some cases, protesting the rise of the machines.
Essentially a toaster with delusions of intelligence.
Fighting plans for a 6-building data center campus in the heart of town.
This sprawling property used to be a nursery and a part of the state known for growing things. But it's been sitting idle for decades, passed over for housing, mixed-use development, and even a tomato farm.
Kind of was proud of this project at the beginning.
Mayor James Gassick.
And I still am, but it's disheartening that a lot of people think the data center is an evil.
Wasn't expecting all this outcry over a deal with a California developer set to buy land from the village, Perry Township, and a joint development district.
What drew me to it was, it's just computers in a building.
The mayor says the data center campus could be $1 billion investment, filling funding gaps for schools, the fire district, and basic services.
Power plant money's been slowly going away year after year.
But this isn't a done deal, with talks over tax breaks still coming.
Some people get emotionally charged on stuff, which is understandable, but we're going to deal in facts, and we'll see what our facts point is.
As the chorus of voices grows,
it's tough sometimes to get people engaged, but I think the community is engaged now.
And neighbors like Gail fear what the future holds.
I'm going back to 1980. I'm going back to reading books. I'm going to scrapbook. I'm going to try to learn to crochet.
In Perry Village, Michelle Jarboe, News 5.
Okay, well, local leaders in one community say a proposed data center could bring hundreds of jobs and hundreds of millions of dollars to their small village. But people who live there say, hold on, we want some answers first. First at 4, Isabella Roberts is live in Perry. Isabella, what are the people there telling you?
Brian, I think the sign behind me honestly says it all. It's a sign that says no data center. Now, the debate here honestly comes down to one word: transparency. People want answers to the questions a project of this size raises. A California developer wants to build a data center on 230 acres in Perry Village, roughly 1/6 of the entire village. Village leaders say the project could bring 875 jobs and $372 million in annual economic output. But community members say they want answers before they say yes.
I'm not against data centers. I'm against this data center project at this time in this location.
Morris Beveridge is a Lake County commissioner and a Perry Village resident. He says the possibility of a data center isn't the problem. It's the lack of information people are getting from local leaders. According to village documents, the project has been in the works since 2024, with 230 acres under a purchase agreement with California-based developer Provence Group. The land sits next to the public library and about a mile from local schools. Beveridge says he's concerned about light pollution, constant noise, and the impact on the village's water supply.
I'm not a large fan of allowing industry to come in here and potentially pollute the water that we've done such a great job of trying to keep clean.
But getting clarity on those concerns has proven difficult.
And we're just not getting answers. And I think that if depending on those answers, the community might be okay with it.
All he wants, he says, is transparency.
The mayor and the council hits the pause button, and that they do a better job of coming out and presenting the options and the facts whether they like it or not, to the community.
The village says it plans to hold a town hall for neighbors to share their concerns, but has not yet set a date. The mayor's office and Province Group did not respond to multiple calls and emails requesting comment. Beveridge also saying that a town hall could definitely be the opportunity for these questions to be answered. So he, along with many other people, are anxiously awaiting for a date to be set. Live in Perry Village, Isabella Roberts, 19 News.
Okay, so we've heard from a variety of news sources. We've heard on a national level, on a state level, and then here at a local level regarding what's going on in Perry. Like I said, I call it the battle for Perry, Ohio. And if what has happened in these clips that were communicated weren't clear or effective enough, let me break down some information for you. Data centers consume a staggering amount of resources to power and cool equipment. Growing heavily due to the artificial intelligence boom, global data center electricity use now exceeds 415 terawatt hours, TWH, annually. This rapid escalation is drawing intense scrutiny from regulators regarding both grid capacity and environmental sustainability. Data centers consume vast amounts of resources to support cloud computing and artificial intelligence. Because the facilities are increasingly concentrated in specific areas, their local impact on municipalities' infrastructure may be highly significant. So let's just look at the electric consumption. Data centers account for roughly 1.5% to over 2% of total worldwide electricity consumption. So if you think about that, 2% of all of the electricity in the world goes to power these data centers. In the United States, data centers consume over 4% of total electricity in recent years and are projected to potentially consume up to 9% by 2030 across the U.S. commercial sector alone. Servers account for about 7% of the electricity consumption. So in regards to per facility load, a typical hyperscale data center operates on 20 to 100 megawatts MW. A single 60 MW facility draws as much electricity as roughly 15,000 households. A total medium-sized AI data center can consume as much electricity as 100,000 households. An average facility requires more power than 75,000 homes combined. The national demand levels of U.S. data center electricity usage grew from 1.9% in 2018 to 4.4% in 2023, with projections estimating it could reach 6.7% to 12% of total U.S. power generated by 2028. That's a lot of power to run these things. Okay, so not only are we talking about the drain on electrical infrastructure, which is crap anyway. I know where Mrs. Smith and I live. We could have my neighbor's cat fart and we'll lose power for days on end. That's not being hyperbolic. That's not hyperbole. That's a fact. We have a backup generator because we will lose power if there's a strong wind for days on end. Think about the already encumbered systems and that they are being drawn and have additional loads put upon them with the creation of these AI data centers. And these things aren't going to shut up. The neighbor's cat isn't going to fart and they're going to go out. They're going to get the power. We won't. So almost a bigger concern, but just as equally as concerned, is the water consumption. Now, about half of the data center's power footprint goes directly into cooling infrastructure. While traditional air conditioning is common, many facilities rely on evaporative cooling, which pulls heavy volumes of local water. Large data centers can consume up to 5 million gallons of water a day. 5 million gallons of water a day It's the equivalent of a town populated by 10,000 to 50,000 people. These numbers are staggering and really hard to wrap your head around. This usage is significant strain in water-stressed regions like the U.S. Southwest, prompting a shift towards reclaiming wastewater and closed-loop liquid immersion. A large hyperscale facility can evaporate anywhere from 1 million to 5 million gallons of water daily, which is equivalent in a peak daily water usage of a town of 30,000 to 50,000 people. Generating electricity to power these servers actually requires even more water than direct cooling. In 2023, the indirect water footprint of the U.S. data center was an estimated 211 billion gallons, averaging about 1.2 gallons per kilowatt hour of electricity used. Extensive AI and local utilities in this analysis capacity often leads to competition with local municipalities and agricultural regions. In regards to the emission, to maintain the 99.99% uptime they require, many data centers rely on massive diesel generators setups, which can permit harmful particulate matter that lowers local air quality. The U.S. Energy Information Administration, the EIA, projects that standalone data center server electricity use could scale massively by 2050, representing between 22% and 33% of all commercial building electricity use. Skyrocketing consumption levels have prompted massive infrastructure investments and governance action. I want to read another article. This was published May 14th. It says, First Energy ordered to create data center pricing rules. Columbus, Ohio regulators ordered First Energy to create new rules for its data center customers as concerns grow over who will pay for billions of dollars in electric grid upgrades from the artificial intelligence boom. The Public Utilities Commission of Ohio gave First Energy's 3 Ohio utilities 30 days to submit numbers following how much more large data centers should pay for the submission cost they create. In its ruling, the PUCO said that the change has needed to assure that future costs are properly allocated to data centers. Now, Gabe Cicconetti, who's a friend of mine, who is also a local Painesville Township trustee, on a post that he put on Facebook on May 19th said, data centers powering AI need a lot of electricity, and that means expensive upgrades. Ohio regulators just told First Energy to figure out how much data centers should pay. If they don't pay enough, you will. Ohio should be very careful about letting monopoly utilities carve up the electric system customer by customer. So why is this important? As we know, there is an AI boom. I am vehemently against AI. I think there's purposes for it. I feel so convicted with this whole thing. You know, I grew up in the shadow of things like the Terminator, like the Matrix. Like at some point, AI is going to be self-eventualized, self-realized. And I think that is a larger philosophical discussion that we can get into and probably will down the road. But we ultimately have to remember that humans are created by the Almighty. We have souls. We have thoughts. We have the genetic building blocks of creating and reproducing life. As the Lord created us, we create children. God built the heavens and the earth. We have the ability to create things, to build things, to invent things, all inspiration from Him. These sentient entities do not. It is a lie. It's a false representation of the Almighty. It is deceptive. It is effectively what Satan does. Satan cannot create. He imitates, he manipulates, and then he dominates. That aside, the reason why this is so important and to talk about is to bring awareness to A couple things. First and foremost, the strain that it's going to put on local resources, namely electricity and water. We're talking about 5 million gallons a day for one of these data centers. That's astronomical. As someone who lives and has a well, understanding the importance of water, not letting that well run out, is at the forefront of my mind all the time. Every time I wash my hands, every time I go to the bathroom, take a shower, cook, clean, the thought is, okay, I have to be mindful of how much I use. And in turn, these facilities, because the AI has to be kept cool, because the donuts need to be made digitally, has to continue to process and be processed. It is frightening to me. Regarding the electricity consumption, my thought just goes to, once again, our infrastructure in this country is horrible. We'd rather go to engage in useless, needless wars, support foreign countries for our leaders' selfish gains, than to invest in any kind of infrastructure, whether it be highways, byways, the electrical grid, self-sustaining electricity. Like, the capability is there to be able to be self-sustaining in regards to electricity and power. We have allowed those who represent us and who rule over us to not engage in those. That's another discussion for another time. But we are in a really bad spot behind the 8 ball in regards to this. Now, you're going to put this, I'm just thinking where I'm at right now, 10 minutes down the road from the 215-acre building, 250-acre campus of these buildings that are going to get the priority, and priority pricing for this means they are going to get preferential treatment, preferential pricing for computers over humans. My concern would be necessary things that electricity runs for the infrastructure. Things like public services, hospitals, medical patients, life support, things like that. Where does the line get drawn between sustaining human life versus feeding this beast that has an insatiable appetite? I'm not overblowing things. I believe this is the crux of the situation. Now, I'm going to paint a scenario, and I do plan in further episodes to expand on this, but things are already tight. It's obvious that Trump doesn't care about the people in this country making comments as far as, our 401ks are fine. Most people in this country don't even have a 401k. That it's okay to pay a little bit more for gas if Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Not a threat to us. I don't care what you say. But what is a threat to us is not being able to afford day in and day out necessities. When things get bad, it's not a matter of if at this point anymore. I think it genuinely is a matter of when. And I do want to start to really encourage people. We need to become as self-sustaining as we can. Now, I'm setting this stage because I want to read an article. This is from a magazine called Truth Out. And this is an article dated May 11, 2026 from Derek Shillman. It's called Wall Street is Pairing Up with the Army to Build Data Centers. The Army data center build out comes at the Pentagon increase in use of AI in military operations. That title alone should stiffen your spine and make your cheeks pucker. But let me read a little bit of this article. Two trends seemingly separate have been accelerating over the past few years. First, Wall Street has been plowing billions of dollars into financing data centers. Second, the U.S. military has been ramping up its use of artificial intelligence. Now, these two trends are directly merging. In late March 2026, the U.S. Army announced its selection of companies to build and operate two hyperscale data centers on two different military installations. Both data centers, one at Fort Bliss, Texas, the other at Dugway Proving Ground in Utah, will be backed by some of the world's top Wall Street firms. The spokesperson also said that instead of receiving cash for the lease, the Army will be compensating through in-kind consideration, meaning that the Army accepts service or improvements of equal or greater in value in lieu of cash rent. Specifically, a key portion of the dedicated data consumption capabilities to directly support our war fighting needs. All this comes as the U.S. military accelerates the uses of AI in operations. One top Army official has said that data centers will be used to, quote, meet rising demands for computational power required for AI applications, including drone swarms and advanced simulations and real-time operation analysis. As one industry website puts it, data centers are war infrastructures now. I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to revisit that in a moment. But local residents and some experts are expressing alarm over the data center due to their environmental impacts on the potential burden on water and electrical grids, as well as what these deals represent for military and corporate accountability. We've seen examples of these kind of AI can be used for, and some of them are horrifying in terms of the speed with which they can enable killing or the extent of which they can expand surveillance and networks. Robert J. Gonzalez, an expert on U.S. militarism at San Jose State University, told Truth Out. The planned facilities come as the U.S. military accelerates the integration of AI into its operations and aided by new Trump administration policies, bolsters its access to data centers which generate the computing capacity that power AI. In January, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth published a memorandum ordering the acceleration of America's military AI dominance by becoming an AI-first war-fighting force across all components. The order follows Trump's January 2025 executive order on removing barriers to American leadership in artificial intelligence. Notably, Hegseth's memo emphasizes corporate America's driving role in this initiative, emphasizing that the military's AI makeover will be fueled by the accelerating pace of commercial AI innovation coming out of America's private sector. On April 3rd, a few months after Hegseth's memo, the Army launched its Army Data Operations Center, which, according to press release, will serve as the operational engine for the Army's transformation into data-centric force. Labeled as 911 for data, ADOC will integrate fragmented data across the Army's operations globally to help operationalize data for goals like shortening the sensor to shooter limitation and ultimately securing the Army's advantage now and in the future, according to the press release. Gonzalez, who's written about big tech's transformation of the military-industrial complex, that the Trump administration's military push is focused on developing autonomous unmanned drones in battlefield situations that will rely or identify different potential targets. Gonzalez, who said that the growing use of AI in the military will bolster AI decisions and support systems that stitch together different kinds of structural data, which could include things like metadata about phone conversations, cell phone locations, internet use patterns, to create a list of targets. Gonzalez cites Israel's genocidal siege against Palestinians as an example. This is precisely what the Israeli Defense Force were using in Israel's war in Gaza to create lists of suspected enemies who were on target for assassination. Gonzalez warns that the growing autonomous AI-driven military systems will intensify surveillance and weaken the ability to hold individuals to account. These systems often fail and also as diffuse accountability with a machine rather than a person in the loop making the decisions over life or death, he said. So I just want to present a scenario, and I'll use Perry as the example. Now we have Lake Erie. It's going to be real close to the lake. Now, things uses 5 million gallons of water a day. Lake Erie only has 127.6 trillion gallons of fresh water. That's staggering to think about. These numbers are almost impossible to comprehend other than it's a lot. It's a lot taken that's not renewable. And at what point do you run through it? At what point are these things, safe? Perry is the nursery capital of America. A lot of produce, a lot of agriculture occurs there. Is that water safe to use for those purposes? But let me paint another scenario for you. No water, no electricity. People are in a bad way, and I don't know too many people who are just going to let their kids die of thirst, so on and so forth. Something that was said in this article, I'm going to reread to you. It says, data centers are war infrastructure now. I personally believe that these data centers we're being told that they're used for AI development. However, and I'm going to get into this in the next time I visit this topic, but I'm under now the impression that these are being used in a real world scenario to equip and to train AI to become more human-like. Now that these are military infrastructures, and we're going to have one like 10 minutes from us, if people are getting hungry enough, they're getting desperate enough, they're parched enough, there's no electricity. If people start to rise up and protest, or even with the surveillance, if people start to talk poorly of these things or question these, even just question, we have military installation right down the street from us. We will be inundated with military surveillance. And I'm not overstating it. This is what the facts are. I think it's going to be very easy to monitor our citizenry and then shut down anything very quickly. The right to protest might become misconstrued of rioting. Certainly the depletion of resources is something to be scared of. And if people go and come against these to try to take back the water, take back the electricity, if that's even possible. But the thought is, hey, they're using all of our power. They're using all of our water. We need that. We have military personnel, or at least AI with the capability of smart drones, to be able to use this technology potentially against U.S. citizenry. This is not science fiction. This is not overblown. I'm not creating some kind of fanciful doomsday scenario. This is the truth. This is what is potentially happening. Once again, I'm going to get into this in the next time I revisit this, but I really want us to start thinking about, do we want these things in our neighborhoods? Right now, Ohio has over 200 of these that are either built or that are in development. We are the 5th or 6th state in the nation that has the highest number of these things. And I just really taken back by that. I'm really concerned about that. And I hope that you guys are too. And what can be done? Well, I'd say at this point, supporting Perry Village with these town halls, with, obviously if you're not a resident, you can't vote. That doesn't stop a lot of people, but, legal, lawful, vote against these things. Now, there's the argument, well, this is going to be creating jobs, and this is going to help municipalities, and this is going to help this and this and this. I would say, to what cost? At what cost is that going to help? I don't know. I have a hard time seeing any long-term benefits to this. I really think a switch from AI needs to occur. Like the one lady in the one video I shared says she's going to start reading books. She's going to start learning how to knit, getting back to using her hands, using her head. And I want to encourage people to do that as well. But I just want to share a verse before I wrap this up. This is Colossians chapter 2, verse 8 from the Amplified. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, pseudo-intellectual babble, according to the tradition and musings of mere men, following their elementary principles in this world, rather than following the truth, the teachings of Christ. I think long-term what's happening is their cult being created with AI. I believe that people are so preoccupied if they can create something all-knowing and almost omnipotent, if you will, versus serving and being loved by a creator that is all-knowing, that is omnipotent. I am really concerned about the false ideology of the false promises of what AI brings. And at what cost? We just look at our app or our tablet or our computer and say, hey, AI, I need A, B, and C, and then we'll get that. And it might seem beneficial. However, what does it cost? We need to, I really believe, get back to basics. I believe we need to get back in touch with our humanity, and I believe we need to continue to surrender to the Lord. And I'm hopeful that I presented enough information here. I really try to stay away from my opinions on things. I really want people to form their own opinions. I think it's far more provocative that you know how to think, not you think what I tell you to think. With this, I really want to encourage you guys to look at the long-term benefits, the ROI, the return on investment. I'm having a hard time seeing that people who are investing, there is no immediate ROI. There's nothing that these things really create. There's no, business. What they do is they are gathering data. And unless there's some kind of business model I'm not aware of regarding profitability or how the application of the profitability, I think that it's a long-term return on these people's investments. And in the meantime, what kind of toll is that going to take on our communities, on our environment, on our infrastructure, on our pocketbook? And I just want people to think about that. Colossians 2:8. See to it that no one takes you captive through philosophy and empty deception, pseudo-intellectual babble, according to the tradition and musings of mere men, following the elementary principles of this world, rather than following the truth, the teachings of Christ. And I just want to encourage people, follow the teachings of Christ, follow the Lord, wherever he leads you on this journey. I believe it's going to be making fishers of men. I believe it's going to be duplicating ourselves to become more and more like the image and likeness of Christ. I believe that's what he wants us to create. Create families, create communities based on him and his identity. So a lot of heavy information. I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. The thought of having a military installation right down the road from me it's off-putting, to say the least. Especially when, we already are under the thumb of a mass surveillance grid. Big Brother is definitely watching. However, it's a little different knowing that Big Brother is watching literally from your backyard. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Let me close this down in prayer. Father, I just thank you for this information. I ask right now that you would spark revelation, that you would spark creativity, that you would spark a hunger and thirst for people to come back to you, to come back to your word, to come back to the place where you are, and that you would breathe life into them. You would breathe creativity into them, that they would not rely on the pseudo-intellectual babble of this world, but they would come to rely, admire, and desire you, Jesus. I just ask that you would show people the way. Show us that self-reliance on machines or even on ourselves is futile, but that we have to grow and mature and come and rely on you. And I just thank you, God. I bless everyone listening and everyone that is hearing this. I ask, Holy Spirit, that you put a new spark, ignite a new flame in their spirits for you and for the things of your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I want to thank you guys for tuning in this week. Please share, please subscribe, hit the like button. All of that stuff helps. You can find us anywhere podcasts are. Just search Flawedcast CLE, Apple, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor.fm. Just search anywhere podcasts are under Flawedcast CLE. We are on the video platform Rumble. That is under Flawed Inc. You can find us on the Project Mockingbird social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Getter, Gab, Parler. We are also now under Threads. That's all under Flawed Inc. In the description of this article, there's a link to pick up a copy of my book, Smith's Heart of Man Repair Manual, and our email is flawedinc@gmail.com. Questions, comments, or concerns, send them there, but you guys keep an eye on things, watch, and pray, and I'll talk to you guys next week.